David Switzy for the Bond Experience. We're back with Joe Darlington. How's
What's
it going,
happening?
brother?
It's going good. How are you, my
You
friend?
doing well?
Absolutely.
We got an interesting one today. We're going to talk about a lot of different subjects under the blanket of the Bond community. And we talk a lot about the movies and film and style and things like that, but very, very little addressing of the Bond community. And it's kind of like, how are we doing?
Yeah.
How are we doing as a group of Bond people? And so, Joe, I'll start with you. How are we doing?
I think we're doing spectacular, if I'm honest. Honestly, I really could not be happier lately. It just in this part of my life, honestly. It's funny because you sort of made me go back and realize, a lot of this really hit a crescendo when we were sort of stuck in the lockdowns and, in 2020, 2021. And it seemed like we were all sort of scrambling to get together to try to do things online, virtual, just to kind of keep our sanity, keep us from going bonkers. And it was almost like it would have been a perfectly reasonable question to ask, is this going to stay this robust once this all subsides and once we're kind of back to normal life? I would say the answer is wholeheartedly yes, it's stayed and maybe even gotten better, because again, now we can do all these things in person that we were dreaming of back then. I mean, and again, not to sound cliche or overly dramatic, but I mean, in a lot of ways, a lot of our dreams came true because again, we were hoping for sort of things like this, and we've been doing it.
Yeah, it's a great point, because during lockdown, from a perception standpoint, it probably seemed like there was more activity within the Bond community because thousands would come on a live stream just at a moment's notice, and you'd see people from all around the world. And now you may have less live streams and less people engaging and impacting on, but now they're making up for it with live events and wanting to engage and see each other. So I think we're feeling it on that end.
Yeah, big time. I mean, honestly, and it's not just these big events too, by the way. I mean, there's so many things. I feel like my calendar is sort of always staying full, which again, I absolutely love, with big and small. If there's not a big event coming up, there's probably at least one or two smaller things that are happening, between now and then. So it's the word that keeps coming into my mind is robust. I mean, it's a really nice time to be a fan.
And the events, I notice there's more and more mid-sized to smaller events. Like the Gatheralls will always be there because we love the big bombastic James Bond moments of Gatheralls and the hippodromes. And the cue the musics. Like they're not going away. They're staying consistent and they're staying put, and in some cases growing, which is great. But now I'm seeing more people do the 10, 12, and what's really sprung up out of people appreciating the small groups in the Bond community is you've got geographical groups springing up, like the Los Angeles group, like the Washington group, the boys down in Florida who have started their own stuff. And I love that people are embracing their geography.
Oh, big time. Honestly, and that was one of the kind of sticking points for a lot of people. We would post things about the Gatherall, whatever, and every once in a while you get somebody who would say something like, I'm too far away, I can't get to it, And it's like, well, here you go. There's now more people are taking the initiative and things are starting to spring up along the way, which is beautiful. I'd like to your point, California, DC, Florida. I mean, they're popping up all over the map.
Yeah. And on top of all of that, you've got these situations where, all right, internationally, you've had these clubs that have really become unbelievably relevant. So 007 GB, before, the London or the UK based club had become sort of defunct or quiet. And now you've got a lot, you've got committees around it. You've got them doing things for UNICEF. You've got, Germany has sprung up. You've got so many different, oh my gosh, the Irish.
There you go.
The Irish.
Always.
Always the Irish. And even the other day I was listening to their podcast reintroducing their members, and Paul Lally had said to the idea of small groups, his favorite Bond moment to this date was actually getting together with you at Piz Gloria, but saddling up to the bar and just having beer after beer, laughing, drinking, singing.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, first of all, you have to love the Irish. I mean, honestly, that's one of my favorite things about going to Ireland is by the time you walk into a pub, you don't know a soul, and by the time you leave, you're best friends with everybody. And honestly, and they do sing. It's so great. But no, and Paul's a great story because I remember right before Piz Gloria, right before that trip, I was just kind of getting to know him online a little bit, and we were kind of busting each other's chops. There was something we were debating back and forth on, and I forget exactly what it was. So by the time we met, we were like it was like old friends already, you know, by the time we actually met in person. And there was so many guys from that crew that were just so great. That's again, that's that wonderful thing that we have is that, you know, it's interesting, you know, I feel like we sort of we're kind of having a love-hate relationship with all the online stuff, you know, social media, and I kind of feel like it's kind of brought out the best and worst of everyone.
Yeah.
But the wonderful thing about our crew is that, like, you know, again, you usually get to know somebody online before you actually get to meet. So by the time you meet, you're kind of like 5 steps ahead.
True.
You know, I've always said, like, you know, especially like a trip like the Piz Gloria trip, it's like you walk into a room and it's filled with friends you haven't met yet.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a matter of time before. And honestly, that's one of the things I love about being, you know, a YouTuber or an influencer or a podcast or whatever you want to call it, is like my calling card is already there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'll walk into the room and it's like, you know, you meet people for the first time, but you kind of already know each other, sort of.
And I think, it's going to sound so negative, but here it goes. I think that like the podcasting and the YouTubing on a consistent level, even Instagram, it's sort of a dying art in some ways. And I think a lot of it has to do, and I think it's just a blip, but I think a lot of it has to do is the newer people that are doing these things like Instagram and YouTube and podcasts, they have a certain level of impatience.
Yeah.
And they're not sitting around and realizing that this takes years.
Yeah.
To create this type of audience or relevancy or whatever equity you think there is. And then P.S., correct me if I'm wrong, when you do obtain this type of audience, you're really doing it for the fun.
Yes, yes.
And the journey.
Yes.
And not for like, look, I got this big unknown goal.
Yeah, honestly, you know, over the years, I've met a lot of people who want to start something. I want to start a YouTube channel. I want to start an Instagram. I want to start whatever. And they're focused on followers. Like, how do I get... And I'm like, you have to enjoy the journey. If you don't enjoy the journey, it doesn't happen. And this is going to sound kind of cliche. It's like fitness. You know, if you wake up one morning, you feel like a slob, you know, and you're so angry at yourself that you go downstairs, you pump iron hard for 3 days, then you look in the mirror and nothing really happened, and you're like, screw it, because this is not going to work, whatever. That mentality doesn't get you anywhere. But if you make it part of your life for at least for a while, you know, and making it part of your life means you have to enjoy where you are today. You have to enjoy the process of doing it and staying consistent over time. That's how things happen. So all of these, and that also goes for these groups that pop up, you know, these wonderful groups. If you don't stay consistent, it doesn't happen. So, I mean, honestly, that would be the thing I would implore people to keep in mind. Time and effort combined that's when the magic happens.
Now, there has been an area that time has been kind to, and that is the softening, the quieting, I've noticed in the Bond community, of the curmudgeons. There is, and there always will be, and we love them too. There are just happily a very small group of individuals that just... They're not happy. They're not happy that Daniel Craig was this, or this movie was that, or that person likes style versus whatever the reason is, they have to point it out. And it seems like they're almost just waiting for that negativity to be like, I'm just sitting here quiet. There's a negative moment. Let me grab onto this and amplify it. And I'm so happy because this used to be probably about 4 or 5 years ago. There was a lot of them. Like they were kind of everywhere. They would just like pop out. But I think the Bond community has become so positive that when one of these curmudgeon gophers pops their head out of the hole, there's like 9 positive Bond fans to whack it.
Oh yeah,
with a sledgehammer.
Yes.
Do you find this?
Yeah, I do, and it is funny you bring that up because it's funny. You know, I remember. When like the Amazon thing was happening, when the creative control went from Eon and now a lot of people were so upset. And I'm like, these are the same people that couldn't stand Daniel Craig, hated No Time to Die, hated everything Eon was doing, and now they hated that Eon is passing the reins. And I'm like, remember that joke? It was in Annie Hall. There was a joke that Woody Allen tells, and he says two elderly women go to a Catskill mountain resort, and one says the food here is terrible, and the other one says, yeah, and in such small portions too.
Small portions, yes.
I feel like that's a lot of this. You know, like boy, nobody can win around here.
No.
So right, pick your battle and go with it. But to your point, yes, luckily we do have so many people who really are kind of positive and excited about the world of James Bond and the things that are happening. They kind of offset anybody who's not so pleased, whatever.
You know what it reminds me of sometimes? The Bond community reminds me of a neighborhood that you just moved into, and you've met kind of the first people that live around you, and then you walk to the store to get some milk, and you run into a bunch of people there, and it's like, all of a sudden you start to accumulate all of these relationships, and it seems like, at least in the Bond community versus other like DC, Marvel, Star Wars, you name it, communities, nobody's competitive with each other. They sort of embrace and understand which corner of the world they exist in. And they just want to share that with others. It's that shareability.
Yes. No, it's so true. And you know, yes, I totally agree. It's wonderful that you have so many people, again, whether they're kind of trying to be an influencer or whatever else, they focus on, it could be the most broadest of Bond subjects or the more specific of niches. You know, there is somebody for everybody. So there really is no reason to try to step on anybody else's toes to get to where you want to be. There really is sort of a spot for everyone in this crew.
How do you think, this is an unprepared question coming right at you, how do you think the Bond community has done coping, I'll use the word coping, with no new film?
I think the best we can. I think we kind of kept the grumbling to a minimum.
Maybe Amazon's put a little more spiff in our
spark. I think so too. Yeah, and again, it is interesting because we are sort of at a funny crossroads where, you know, again, I was very excited that things were starting to happen, and I ran into some people who were, you know, not so pleased about you know, James Bond is dead now because Amazon. I'm like, yeah, but again, it was what it was, and it is what it is.
Right.
So I'm just excited that the brakes have come loose and we can move. And so, but we're still kind of in a spot where we're anxiously awaiting to see what the next step is going to be.
Yes.
So there's a lot of trepidation too, in a good way. You know what I mean? We're excited for what's coming, also hopeful that it's something good. But yeah, I think we've all done a fairly decent job. I think that if anything was trying our patience, it was all the postponements of No Time to Die. So I think if we were able to get through that, we could probably get through whatever's coming.
I would agree. And I will say, pretty sweeping statement, that I think that if the Bond community didn't have some of these pauses, it probably wouldn't be as strong, because we've had to become incredibly resourceful.
True.
And really, really very resourceful in the way we celebrate Bond, because we don't have a movie to celebrate around it.
Yes.
You know, we don't have all this merchandising that connects back to a movie to really celebrate it. So we have to be very creative. And I think it's made us more creative and more engaged individuals. And dare I say, slightly protective of each other. You know, like I know personally, when a new content creator comes into the fray, especially younger people, I absolutely embrace what they're looking to do. And I try to support them in everything that they do.
Yeah.
Because I think without that, we have this hollowness, and I probably wouldn't be a Bond fan.
Yeah. And that's a great point. I think if we were constantly bombarded, I won't even say constantly bombarded, but like, let's say we went back to the old days where every 2 years you could be guaranteed a new James Bond film. Yeah, we would probably have two phases. We probably have the excitement from the movie we just saw transitioning right into the excitement for the movie we're about to see, and what's the news there, and how's filming going, etc. The fact that we do have these sort of gaps causes us, maturity is the word I think I want. Okay. It causes us to sort of grow and mature and say, okay, what are we going to do to fill this space? And it has caused us to, exactly what you said, to be more creative and, come up with things that are going to fill that time and figure out our own way to celebrate Bond, etc. So, yeah, I think that's a great point.
One thing can be certain, no matter which line of the controversy you stand on, if there is any controversy to this, is nothing is handed to Bond fans on a silver platter.
Right.
Like, I will use the example of Star Wars. I mean, if you wait 10 minutes, there'll be a new Star Wars product that comes out on Disney stores or Hasbro or wherever it is. Just wait. Or wait 2 weeks and you'll have a new cartoon of Star Wars or a new show, whether you like it or not. And by the way, have you seen the new Andor series?
I just started it like 2 nights ago. I heard good things.
Pretty good.
I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But my point being is that with Bond fans, it's like we get a crumb. So, what is, somebody got really excited. It wasn't even too long ago. It was like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I know what it is. It was a pair of sunglasses that I've seen at the dollar store that you can see behind you because it's got little mirrors on the side. Like you would never wear these out in public. It's totally a tchotchke thing. I think it was like $10, but it said 007 agent on it. And like the internet was lit up, and I'm like, this is what she made us. Like this is what 007 has made us. And I'm like, wow, can you imagine when a movie comes out and Amazon says, guys, we're opening up the gates. We're going to be like those cows that have been caged all their life that start like bounding through the field. Like, what is this? What is this freedom? I'm not going to know what to do with ourselves.
It's so true. Honestly, seriously, if we start to get much more consistent content, which is, I shouldn't use that word content because I don't like that word. But if we start getting more consistent stuff, which I'm pretty sure we will, because that was sort of my prediction all along. I said if once they pass the torch, someone is going to be very excited to put out new stuff. So we probably can prepare ourselves for, and I don't want to say onslaught, but it's not going to be lacking like it's been. So it is going to be a new thing for a lot of people. We're going to be like, oh yeah, that's right. This is how it used to be. Remember getting like a new movie every 2 years, like clockwork? It will be kind of an experience for all of us.
So here's how I want to end this video. I want to bring it back to, we talked about big events and little events and how the little events are very special. So this is a big conversation. I want to make it very little by talking about this guy. So ask the question about the Bond community, but a lot of people have given you some guff because in the last year or two, being James Bond, your channel, which is one of the oldest, most accomplished channels, has gone quiet. And then suddenly this year, especially in 2025, you've got podcasts, you have reviews with Morris. You've got not one, you've got 2 book launches this year at like live events, one internationally, one having a book signing. Like all of a sudden, it's like being James Bond, like is having either a resurgence or waking up. My question is why? Like what caused you to be like clear, resuscitate?
I think probably a couple things. If I'm being honest and doing a lot of soul searching, I think I had kind of a breakthrough moment last year where I kind of really told myself, I said, I really need to get back to a lot of the things that give me joy and happiness, and this is a huge part of that. It's everyone knows what it's like when you have to focus on work and life and the family, and there's just so much kind of preoccupying it's like you don't have any room for your own thing anymore. But I told myself sort of the end of last year, I said, I'm getting back to this. I really want to get back to this. And I was very lucky to have I'll just call it a job change at the beginning of this year. And I kind of felt like, the shackles are off, and I'm going to really focus on the things that I want to focus on. So I really wanted to get back into the community, contributing to the community, not just being the old guy sitting in the corner. It's like you ever get together, there's always one old guy sitting in the corner going, he's been here for years. You got to be nice to him. He's a nice guy. So
I know that guy.
That's right. So I am that guy. But I do feel like I got a nomination this year for an award for the podcast, which I feel like was very kind almost kind of like a legacy award. Like, you know, he's been around for a long time. We have to sort of throw him one, but
There
a lot more deserving.
There will be Bond podcast. Is not happy about that. Not happy.
Yeah, no, believe me when I totally get it. People are much more deserving of that one. I am hoping that next year, though, I can honestly say I'm going to get a little more, an award that's more deserving. But, you know, again, that's next year.
You could possibly be up for the book award.
I got 2 chances. That's how I look at it.
That's all I'm saying. Well, that makes a lot of sense about the resuscitation. And I will say this, the great thing about people finding their Bond center again, finding their escapism and their reasons for joy, usually there's beneficiaries beyond them. And that is when somebody like you creates something like books and changes and podcasts, we all benefit from it because we all have something new to watch and enjoy.
Yeah, I look at it the same way too. And honestly, I mean, seriously, I can't have a channel called Being James Bond while I'm sitting on the couch and so
you're not
gotta
being
get back
James
into
Bond.
get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, well, it's funny. My channel, to use a quantum quote, I never left.
There you go.
But I will say that it spurs me on and inspires me to see other people creating. Yeah. So when content creators go quiet, I'm like, oh man, come on, everybody! Like, where's all my homies? Where are my homies at? You know. But
right.
Joe, thank you for exploring this with me.
Sure, as always, thank you so much.
No, appreciate it. It's like you never left. And this has been David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. Post below, what are you loving about what's happening in the Bond community, or maybe even what are you dissatisfied? What would you like to see more of? We'll read every one of them. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks for watching The Bond Experience. If you like what you saw, why don't you subscribe to the channel by clicking this button right here. We'll keep you up on everything new that's happening in the world of Bond. And speaking of something new, here's something new just for you because we know you so well. Talk to you soon.